Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self.
Good morning. Good morning,
Well,
badass. How are you?
Doing well. How was your vacation?
It is going well. I am loving it. Thank you.
Good. It sounds like I think we have a little bit of a delay. I'm not sure if you're still on that Wi-Fi of the hotel or on your phone, but it does look like there's a little bit of a delay, just so you know. But just so you know, we also have
How
some
appropriate.
people. I know. So today's topic being in your control, out of your control. I sort of was joking with Cate. I was like, we're just going to have to go with it because everybody needs a vacation, right?
Yeah.
It's so things might be a little bit delayed on Cate's side. I think she's going to try to fix some things over there, but I see that we already have some people that are joining us today. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. Carrie said, "Happy final Friday of August."
Yes.
So,
good morning, Carrie.
yeah, it's much better, Cate, by the way. So awesome.
Good.
And then Stephanie is joining us as well. She said, "I'm not ready to say goodbye to summer, but I do love the fall."
I love the fall as well, Stephanie. I actually think that I do, like, my mental health is worse in the summer. I've just realized that, I believe.
Really?
It's almost like I have the opposite. I think it's a Wisconsin thing because, like, it is so busy because we have such little time, for like family and friends and all the events. So I think that's part of it because it's just like it's so overstimulating. It's so busy. It's like every weekend is packed, because we don't have any other options.
Yeah. I guess for me, I love fall.
Me too.
Our entire family, our birthdays are in fall, like starting in September on through November. And I don't know, fall was always a special time for me just because I just love the changing of the leaves. And I don't know, I'm not afraid of change. And so I think I like sort of the change of like the movement from summer to the fall and the things that are changing around us. And I just love because it's a little bit cooler. And so
Yep. That's what I love too. And I'm even starting to embrace winter a little, but I'm not a huge fan of the snow still, but like the, coming in and facing inward and kind of, and being internal, like that's what winter makes me feel like.
yeah.
So
Yeah. It's interesting because I know that it was weird here this week. I was talking with you and some other people, and you were telling me in Wisconsin, or maybe it was someone else in Wisconsin, they were telling me that you guys were having like 100-degree weather. And I was like, well, I was only 91, 92 here in Atlanta yesterday. And so it was interesting that you guys were warmer than we are.
Yes, we had a few 100-degree days in a row. And when the humidity is, 70% or above, that feels just disgusting. It's just terrible.
Well, we're going to do the best we can because we're going to focus on what we can control, right, Cate?
Yes, what we can control and what we cannot.
Yes. And so Sandra let us know that Cate is coming through great. So thank you and welcome. You. And Kim said, "Happy Friday, badass ladies."
Happy Friday, Kim. Miss you.
So glad you joined us. And then Carmen's joining us. Good morning, you two beauties. She gets up early, by the way, and I think she is watching us at 6:30 her time.
Wow.
And
I love it.
She also said it's super weird here. Earthquakes,
Yes.
tropical storms. They're having fires, all kinds of stuff. Things you can't control, right?
Yes. Very strange.
Yeah. And then Carrie's looking forward to the fall. She said, yes, the 2-week Atlanta fall is fantastic.
Oh, yeah. It's short-lived.
Yes. Oh, good. And Myra's coming in, and we get to see her name today. So she said good morning. And so welcome, everyone. I'm still waiting to see whether Eric's going to be showing up. I know he's a normal person, and then we have several other people as well. So hopefully, as they start to join, they will say hello and let us know that they are here.
Yes. And if we have any new people, please put a white heart if you can. Yes. Let us know that you're new.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we know that most of our new people kind of lurk.
Absolutely. And so be sure to let us know by giving us a white heart. And also, if you're new, then also make sure whatever you're connecting to. So, for example, Facebook, StreamYard.com/Facebook will then give us authorization to see your name as well. And so, Cate, today we are doing something a little bit different, right? As far as the music.
Yes. Yeah. So today we chose, we wanted to do the music up front because it's something that you can like think about, and it's a little different than what we normally do. We chose an instrumental this morning.
Yeah. And so I want to introduce it. It's called Mount Helicon. And it is by Buzz Amato. And so Buzz is my former boyfriend, fiance, and also just still a good friend. He actually has an album out, and this is on his album. And so if you want to check that out, it's called, I believe it's called Muses. And I was honored to be, I guess, listed as one of the muses on his album that helps to inspire some things there. And so he's an amazing artist. And so I definitely want you to check him out. If you like jazz, if you like instrumentals, he does have 2 vocals on it as well. But his name's Buzz Amato. And so to introduce the song today, the reason I ended up choosing it, and I was listening to different songs, and I listened to this one, and I was like, wow, this would actually be really good for the in our control, out of our control type topic. And as you listen to the music, listen to some of the main instruments. So imagine that you are the main instrument, which is a saxophone, and then there's also a trumpet, I think, as well. But you'll notice that if you imagine yourself in the surroundings of the music, it's sort of chaos. It feels out of control. But it's also then finding your voice. And so the instrument finds its voice as it goes through the music. And so that's why it sort of influenced me today for today's topic. And so let's go ahead and listen to it. It is a longer one today, so enjoy. right. What do you guys think? I'm curious to hear from our audience, and Sandra, just make sure that it's not the free version. The link that you provided. If so, we need to delete that. But we do want people to go out if you're interested in that. And I actually got it on my iTunes, so I was playing it that way. And so, Kate, what did you think as you were listening to it? How were you feeling at the beginning of the song and as you progressed?
Yeah. Like, it starts out kind of like chill, and then it builds. And so I totally understand the variation between, when you're feeling very in control, everything kind of sounds and moves smoothly as it like it's it's together, right? And then it becomes a little disjointed.
Hmm.
Like, that's the out of control part, where it feels like it's like things aren't happening as smoothly as I would like. I
Yeah.
felt like that the instrumental kind of really showed the difference between like the smooth and togetherness, than like a little more like, yeah, like I said, disjointed.
Yeah.
I really loved it.
Well, Carrie said,
Unfortunately, I'm glad I heard it before, because I'm at the resort. It didn't come through as well
I
today.
I gotcha, I gotcha. I'm
Yeah,
glad you were able to listen to it beforehand. And so
me too.
Carrie said, "Wonderful, would be great for a movie soundtrack too." And Kim said she loved it as well. I just love the beginning part because the beginning part sounds sort of very chaotic. And in
Mhm.
my life, when I feel out of control, the beginning part of that sound of the music, that's how I feel. It feels like, oh my gosh, what do I do in this situation? I have all these things being thrown at me and there's no focus. Like, I can't, how do I get control over this particular type of situation? And so I loved it how it then we started focusing in. At first was the piano coming in, and you're thinking you're sort of in control, and then all of a sudden it wasn't really till the saxophone comes in. It's like, okay, here's my voice. Now I'm sort of finding my way.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. I love how you
Yeah.
describe it.
And so let's see what Stephanie said. She said, I was thinking good for a soundtrack, but also reminded me of a 70s cop show. I agree. And so she said,
Yes.
very, very cool. And
Yes.
so, Kate, today's conversation is really about people empowering and embracing the ability of what it is that they can control. And so it's really sort of letting go as well as finding peace and accepting what lies outside of our control and discovering how to embrace the things that we can control or the things we can transform really with our mindset in how it is that we think about things. And so I'm excited about today's topic. I do have to share that this morning it was funny. My husband and I got into a little bit of an argument, and
Okay.
and I literally did this exercise with me. All right, Sarah, what can you control? What can't you control? And my husband was like, "See, I'm just riling you up so you can, do this today on the show."
He's like, now you should be thanking me.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Thanks for the argument.
Yes, yes. So kind. It was very, very generous. The
Oh my
generous thing you
gosh.
did, Jay.
Yeah. And so we wanted to start today out with a particular tool
Yes.
and to really help us. And so I'll go ahead and add that into it. And maybe Kate, you can give us a little bit of some of the thoughts of why we chose this particular tool.
Yeah. Sarah and I both really, this kind of resonated with us because it's graphical. But it does kind of feel like, you know, you can have your center, which is, literally everything that is in your control, or mostly in your control. So that's the pink in the middle, and then the next layer out is you have some control. Maybe you can influence the situation, but it's not completely in your control. There's like a middle zone where it's you can influence it, but you can't do a ton about it. And then you have the outer circle where you have like zero control, or very, very little control. No, you lack influence. It kind of happens to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this resonated with us because, just like all things in life, there isn't just, it's not black or white in some ways. There's a whole spectrum there of things. So this is a nice representation of all stages of kind of control.
Yeah. And what we wanted to do today is maybe go through a little bit of an exercise. So we do have an example as well that we're going to pull up, but we'd also love to do it live. And so we're going to go through our example, but we want to encourage you to have the audience, have us go through an example of maybe something you're dealing with. And so as you can see, this is dealing with, a lot of times it deals with stress. So it's being able to break it down into these three categories on what you can control, what you somewhat can influence, as well as what is completely out of your control. So we'd like to see from the audience, do you have anything that you are dealing with that you have been trying to figure out, okay, how do I deal with this? I keep having the same thing happening again and again, or whatever it might be. So we're interested to hear about people from everyone. And but in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and pull up. So Bruce has joined. He said there's no lurking here, so he is here full blast. He also said the beginning reminded him of like a dreamlike state, by the way, with a certain disconnectedness. Yes. And then as it starts to move, it's without form, and then gradually builds to retains a certain uncertainty. And so that was also on the song. So I want to give people a little bit of time to think about something that maybe you're dealing with, but I'll go ahead and pull up our example just to sort of help with the situation. So one of the things that we ended up doing is Cate sometimes struggles with sleeping. And so she struggles sometimes being able to get that 8 hours of sleep. And I know a lot of people might have this type of challenge. So
Right.
we created a slide of like no control, some control, and things that you have control over. So a lot of times when we're dealing with the no control, a lot of times it has to do with thinking about our financial obligations, laws that are upsetting us, diseases that are happening, politics, someone being rude. I mean, and that whole list can be a lot more than what we put up there.
Right.
But that center one, so Cate, as you start to think about the things that you do potentially have control over, you sort of have the ability to influence how well you sleep.
Right.
And then you also can potentially, do some things that impact your health, which could potentially also correlate with sleep. And then also how often you speak with friends. So sometimes having that ability to talk to other people, things like that can help you with that. But then that center one, it's, what I'm eating potentially is impacting us. So maybe I'm having caffeine close to bedtime, or, how I'm thinking about things, releasing the worry of those outer things. And then also sometimes maybe the amount of TV that you watch. So that could potentially, and then maybe also right before bed. Can you think of anything else you think that should be on this?
Oh yeah, definitely. So when I the out in the outer circle, the things that
Mm-hmm.
are like I have no control over, like what my kids are doing, you know, in life, right? It feels very much like, I don't have any control over what they may be going through. And that could be contributing to like some stress, right?
Yeah.
In the some control zone, um, I feel like I have some control over my work obligations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of that feels out of my control, like as in, I'm responsible for doing this, and I need to do it. But
Right.
I can make certain choices about how I leverage my time,
Or people you delegate to.
or people I delegate to, or asking for help, right?
Yep. Asking for help.
Also, yeah,
Definitely
huge.
control. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yep. In the very center, it's the mindset really speaks to me, the middle one, because that is so within your control, and you often convince yourself that it isn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a human, it's easy to convince yourself that you don't have control over the way you're thinking, or the way you're feeling emotionally. But so the mindset is huge right there in terms of what you control. And I've started incorporating very intentional thinking patterns while I am falling asleep. So similar to like when you're meditating, a lot of people, like I know Sarah, you tend to like listen to things as you're falling asleep to help
Mm-hmm.
you like meditate, or just kind of like zone out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've started doing that, especially since you gifted me the lovely mask, which I forgot on this trip, which I'm not happy about, because it would
Oh
be so great
no.
on this trip. I know. But and then I also started to kind of I've always been fairly regular with a gratitude practice, but I've started as I'm falling asleep, thinking of the things that I'm grateful for,
Yeah.
which has been a nice little addition.
Yeah, because I find that when I have difficulty sleeping, most of the time it has to do with worry. And
Uh-huh.
so I really have to like go, okay, there's nothing I can do with that. I'm going to give that to the universe. I'm going to
Right.
let the universe deal with that. But I used to always have this type of issue, and I would sit there and worry, 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 and then not sleep through the whole night. And so I've really gotten into sort of that mindset practice of, okay, Sarah, what can you do about this? Okay, you can't do anything about this, then why worry about it? And so it's really for me, I call to universe and say, please, release this, from me. So I think that for me the mindset thing is huge as well. But I also have found, like you said, I have a mask and I have it connected to Bluetooth to my phone, and so I will use binaural beats or like different types of each chakra is associated to a different sound. So I see what resonates with me. I like the Om, which is actually the third eye, which is interestingly enough, I'm always stuck in my head. And so it's sort of getting out of my head. And so let's see. So Stephanie says a grateful heart with humility, grace, and forgiveness does wonders for peace and tranquility. And so, yes, Stephanie, very much agree.
Yeah, yeah. And I love the way you phrased it, Stephanie. Just the sentence alone was beautiful.
Yeah. So let's go back to the first slide. Carrie has an example. So maybe the audience can help us. She said, so how do you deal with being ghosted on Facebook Marketplace? I'm trying to give stuff away and I get all this interest and then they vanish. I'm about to
So
just
frustrating.
call hunks hauling junk and being done with it. So I really like this one because I think that it really helps us to sort of go through the things you can't control, the things you can control, and then also talking about energy as well. Um, so I guess, Carrie, the biggest question we would have for you is how important is it that you give this stuff away And is it that you're wanting to give it away to someone that can use it? And that's what's sort of keeping you from just calling someone and saying, just take it away. What do you think, Cate? For me, I think about what I can control and think about, okay, well, how much time do I want to allot, or how much energy do I want to put into this? How much time am I willing to put into this? How much is it worth to me? And then setting sort of a time limit and saying, if it's not done by this time, I move on.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I get that, Carrie. When I would much rather see someone I know or someone I care about, use this stuff than.
She said it's good stuff. She hates to just trash it. Yeah.
Totally.
I agree. I have this problem. It is one of the things that my husband and I disagree on. He's like, just throw it away. And I'm like,
Right.
no, I'm like, it's good stuff that people can use. And so I start to think about, like, what else can I do? So sometimes I get stuck in my head that this is the only way that I could handle the situation. I only have the hauling of the junk, or going to the marketplace and someone, deciding to do it. What about if it's really good stuff, calling a church or calling a particular organization or association to see whether that's something that they would be interested in? So sometimes I find that the reason we get stuck or think we're sort of out of control is sometimes we have to open up and start to think about other options, or maybe put it out there like, hey, does anybody know, like, within your universe, anybody know that someone that would want this type of stuff?
Yep. I also, in my opinion, when we do this sort of thing, like when we go through a cleaning like phase, right, where you're like, okay, I'm certain that I want to keep this stuff and I'm ready to get rid of this stuff. There's this sense of urgency, right? We feel this urgency because we've made the decision to, like, get rid of something. And then, you want it gone. You make the decision and you're like, okay, now, this should have happened yesterday because I've made the decision and I want it gone. And sometimes there's some, like, truth to just chilling a little bit and waiting for the right opportunity for it to be gone, if it is important to you. But I end up being more in the J camp a lot of the times, where I'm just like, if I want it, because my priority is the urgency. Yes. I made the decision, and that's, but if it's important to you to find someone that would really truly benefit, then I think you have to balance it around, waiting until you find the right fit.
Yeah. So what's in your control is maybe being patient and realizing that if it's important to you that someone, it gets a good home, then sometimes we have to seek out what are those other options that we have to us. So reaching out to other people, so asking for help. So I sometimes I'll post on my personal page as well as on, like, the community page, and then there's also what's that other community type
Craigslist?
Yeah, but I was thinking more like community. I can't remember it right now. But other types of things that are related to people around you. So even instead of the marketplace, for example, I go onto the yard sale ones. So I join the yard sale ones because they tend to be more serious, is what I have found, versus just the marketplace. The marketplace has a bunch of scammers, but so.
Yeah, in general, I have very little patience or energy for Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Kim said Nextdoor. Is that what you're talking about?
Nextdoor. Thank you. Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. Nextdoor is a great one, as well as just all the yard sale ones are great.
Yep.
And so I guess, Carrie, thinking about the things that are out of your control, you can't really So this really goes into the things you can't control. You can't control the actions of other people. You're going to have those people that are scammers. You're going to have those people that are non-responsive. And it might be because maybe something came up in their life, or there are just people that like to waste time. And so we can't do anything about that. And so getting worked up over those people ghosting you, there's not a lot you can do about that. So you definitely don't want to, or you want to try to not internalize it. So how can you potentially influence them? You can send them another message. But it's probably better to think about the energy that you're expending and finding maybe a better outlet. Is how I would look at it.
Yes. And then so this is something my mother would do, which is I think I always thought a little crazy, but she was a very unique person. When she wanted to give something away that she thought had value, but that she would offer money. So she would say $20 to come get this. And to her, it was it was about the urgency. It worked out, and a lot of times people would say, "No, I'm not going to give you money." But it was something about the attraction. So
That's
I don't know.
interesting.
It's an idea though, but I do remember my mom doing that. And she was a big donator too to Goodwill and other places. But like when she had a couch that was really lovely, she paid for someone to come get it for free. And then she had a couple of, really nice sets of china that she wanted someone to take, or, and didn't want to just donate it. And she did the same thing. She offered money. I don't think those people took her up on it, but I think it's a worthwhile thing to consider.
That's interesting. And so that would be an interesting approach, Carrie. So I like the outside of the box thinking on that, Kate. And so I know, Kate, you and I, as we were talking about, a lot of times when we are younger, we tend to worry about things a lot more than as we get older. And I know this was
Yes.
something that really influenced you.
Yes, thank you for reminding me, Sarah. Yeah, so I love the younger population, as you know, I have a lot of kids, but I also really like the senior population in general. I love elderly people. I always have. I think it's because my mom was always involved in geriatric work for her life. So I did a lot of volunteering as a teenager, and then it just kind of continued. And one of the things that I've noticed about a lot of elderly people is that they just stop kind of caring about what everybody else thinks. And so and I think that's a common thing, right? Like that's a common thing that people talk about, like where when you're a really little kid, you don't care, right? Because you don't know. Mm-hmm. And then, once you're in your, elder years, you care, you don't care at all either, because you've had so many life experiences. I think you know what matters. Mm-hmm. So what I love to try to take that and apply it to my current life and realize that, I can start caring less now. I don't have to wait until I'm like in my 70s to do that. I can start early on. But I think there's something to learn from that, because it is all truly a lot of the things that we worry about are things that are external that we can't do anything about. And when you have a certain amount of life experiences showing you that over and over and over again, it's no wonder that when you get to a certain age, you're like, I'm done, right? Mm-hmm. Then there's also the physical side. So not only just like the interactions and the experiences we have in life, show us that, but then our body literally starts to fail, right? Mm-hmm. And it's proven to us then how much is really out of our control, right? Mm-hmm. So we can feel one way inside and our body isn't supporting that. And we can work hard to take care of our body for years and years and years, but no matter what, we all age.
Mm-hmm.
Our bodies will eventually stop supporting what we want them to do. So I think that's where the elderly come to the point. A lot of them come to the point where they just truly understand how little is really within our control.
Yeah. And so, Kate, let's talk a little bit about things that we tend to find people want to control, but they can't really control. And sometimes they don't even realize that they can't control those things because they're still trying to control those things. So the things that come to mind, like with my argument with my husband this morning, I can't control how he's acting towards me. I can't control his thoughts, his feelings, his beliefs. Those are his. And
How
I
he may
think
have been triggered or
exactly. And so
right.
I can only potentially influence him by saying, okay, how about we go and talk to someone and figure out how we can better communicate? And as we started talking, he was like, okay, he's like, we're getting, he's like, we're getting better. Like we're working on this. Like we don't blow up the way we used to. Like we used to, really like yell at each other. So now we have chosen to really try to focus in on, okay, I I feel like you're not listening to me. So those types of things, we can express our feelings and how it is that we feel. We can't make the other person listen. We can repeat it again to try to get that person to realize, hey, I still feel like I'm not being listened to. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And the other thing that Jay and I were talking about this morning, the other thing you can't control is you can't control or can't expect people to read your minds. And a lot of times, the reason we sometimes feel a particular way is because we haven't actually expressed how we're feeling, and we're expecting someone to control their actions based on things that we're thinking or things that they should intuitively pick up on. And
Yes.
so that was one of the things we talked about today as well. I very much will communicate to him, I need empathy. I need, XYZ. And a lot of times he doesn't necessarily do that with me. And so I was bringing that up with him. I'm like, I can't read your mind. Like, the reason I ask questions is I'm trying to clarify what it is you are thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Makes perfect sense. And it is super common, right, in relationships for one person to think that the other should know, right?
Right.
Sometimes we suck ourselves into this thing where it's like, well, I've been with this person for 17 years. Why doesn't she know that I don't like this? Or that, this is what I would prefer. um, and that's something that Jen and I have struggled with as well. So
Mhm.
I totally love that you expressed that and were able to share a little bit. For us, I'm very much in the J camp, right? Like I need direction. So I need to know exactly what she wants.
Yeah. The
You
guy
know,
vacuuming in the back. We can't control that.
we can't
Like,
control that. No. I will mute when you're not talking. But I mean, is it
fine.
obnoxious? Are
It's
we still
no, I
able to
can
hear?
still hear you.
Yeah, good.
The other thing I would say is also, oh, hey, Eric. Eric just joined. Let's see what he said. I just noticed him pop up. A bit late. Good, badass morning. Good. So, the other thing that I think is important is also you can't control the past and you can't control the future
This
as
is
well.
huge.
And
Yeah.
so, and a lot of times, the reason we're stressed out or maybe why we're upset at someone or, is the past. Like, that person can't control the past. Like what happened happened. You either got to decide to get over it or you're just going to continue, you're choosing to basically continue to argue about it, or things that happened to you in the past, you can't control that. And then you also can't control what hasn't happened. So the future. So you can't, that's again, those things that are outside of your control. So what can you influence? What can you actually control? You can't impact someone. You can't impact death. You can't impact someone getting sick. You can't, impact time. You can't stop time. You can't make it go faster or make it go slower. So those are some of the other things that a lot of times people will worry about or complain about. And it's like, what good does it actually do to complain or to worry about those types of things? Because there's nothing you can do about them.
Yeah, exactly. Um, it takes a lot of real estate in our heads, right?
Mm,
Because it also doesn't make sense in some ways, like when you think about it in a linear sense. Like, we're supposed to put a lot of energy into our goals, right? We're
mhm.
supposed to manifest, we're supposed to be positive, we're supposed to think about the future, but not too much. You got to find the balance, and that's hard. And then in the same way, in terms of the past, we're all supposed to we're all supposed to learn from the shit that we didn't like,
Mhm.
right? So we're supposed to put some energy into the past in order to improve or not get and get better, but not too much. So you have to find that magical balance. And as an adult, I often feel like, okay, I know how to do that. I can weigh it out in my head, and I can,
Mhm.
but the truth of the matter is that when I do find myself really preoccupied with something, even though I'm a very sensible, responsible person that I think makes pretty decent decisions, it's still, when the decision is weighing on me, or when it's like taking up so much real estate in my head, I need to get it on paper and
Mhm.
literally do a little bit of analysis around, okay, what are the things? Let's just say them out loud, Kate. you know
Yeah.
and that can sometimes just help you really free up your energy and your desires.
Absolutely. And I do this too, Carrie. So she sings, "Let it go, let it go."
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so I do that as well. It's huge. It's like, all right, Sarah, just let it go.
Yeah. Then, something we didn't talk a ton about, but parenting. Shit, is parenting not like the one of the most extreme examples of dealing with things that are in your control and not
Mm,
in your control? And it's set up to fuck with you, in my opinion, because when they're little, they you control everything, right? And you create this person in a lot of ways. Yeah, they're their own person, but you have so much influence and impact on who they are and who they become. And then all of a sudden you get to a point where shit, like, they make their own choices now.
yeah. I'm very
you
much
know
dealing with that as my daughter is going into the teen years. Like there
yes.
and the biggest thing that I've also been trying to help her with, which are goes into the things you can control, is I'm trying to teach her things regarding boundaries. Okay. And also acknowledging that her feelings do matter as well. So understanding your feelings do matter. You can set a boundary, or you can say, maybe this isn't what you want, but maybe you can suggest something else. So instead of saying no, you can say, I still would want this, but how about we do XYZ? So being able to influence or think about how you can control potentially the situation, giving that person potentially what it is they're looking for, but also looking for what it is you potentially need. But I think
Yes.
the biggest thing is, we can control our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, our beliefs. And I know that for you, one of the things I really loved was, the fact, you say, being present, breath work, things like that. That's some of the
Yes.
things that really help you.
Yes. Yes. So mindfulness and meditation and being able to control, like at the end of the day, when I'm feeling so out of control that maybe I'm even leaning in towards a panic attack, right?
Mm,
Um, the first thing I do is remind myself of the things I can control. And the
mm-hmm,
first one is I can control if I'm breathing.
mm-hmm.
You know, I literally have a choice. I can breathe or I can't breathe, you
Yeah.
know, and it is all, so it starts right there. So if I can control my breathing, that is like one of the base things I can control in life.
Mm-hmm.
And you focus right there. And I found, and I know we talked about that when we had our friends join us that talked about construction industry, Thomas LeMay, you
Yeah,
know, he used that with panic attacks. And
exactly.
yeah,
And
such a
also,
good
one of the
essential.
other things you're really good at is you can control listening. So,
Yes. Hmm.
which that going back to your past, the episode where you talked about active listening, so you can do that. And then for me, it was more boundaries. So you can set boundaries, but keep in mind boundaries are about you, not about the other person. So that's why I feel like control and boundaries are very much in alignment, with the principles on both of them.
Yeah, right. Because you can control your boundary and then how you react if your boundary is messed with in some
Hmm.
way, right? You know,
Yeah.
and you're excellent at that, Sarah. Like you're excellent at setting the boundary and then respecting it and then respecting other people's boundaries. You're really, really great at understanding and not taking offense, right? Like, oh, okay,
Right.
that's your thing. Nothing, you know.
Yeah. You're your own person. I'm my own person. I can respect your boundaries, and
Mhm.
whether you respect mine or not, this is still what I'm gonna do. Type of situation. It was funny. I was talking with my daughter, and she goes, "But I feel guilty." And so
Mhm.
she was trying to set a boundary, and she was like, "But I feel guilty," because she's feeling the pain of the other person and doesn't want to make them feel bad. And I'm like, "Look, you also have valid feelings as well. So you have to acknowledge that. And you have to decide, how important is this to you? So is it, is the one thing more important, or is it the other thing that's more important? And then you have to, or is there a balance that you could potentially do, which would, is there a compromise within there? But you have to decide what your values are, what is most important to you, and then, you have to sort of, again, let it go, that this is what you want. um,
Mhm.
and that's okay. A lot of times people feel selfish with setting
Yes.
setting boundaries. And again, it really is about, what, again, where your energy is, where you want to spend your energy.
Yeah. And I find that like people pleasers, right?
Hmm.
I really struggle with that.
Yeah.
I know I do. I know Jenna does. My wife, she struggles with that. Um, because you want to make everybody happy,
Hmm.
and a lot of times you're a flexible person to begin with, right? Or maybe maybe you are. For me, I'm pretty flexible, so I can picture myself bending in different ways
Yeah.
because I know that I'm capable of it. So sometimes I might set my wants or needs or desires aside. So I've tried over the last few years to be a little better about just picking a stance sometimes, and
Hmm.
I've suggested Jenna to do the same because Jenna really struggles with really honestly feeling, because she homeschools the kids, because she's working with them so frequently, she struggles to sometimes like set aside time that is just for her, or
Hmm.
taking a look at a situation and deciding, you know what, right now my needs
Hmm.
outweigh.
Right.
Um,
Well, and
And
that's one of the things you can control is to take care of your mental, your physical, your emotional, and your spiritual well-being. And that in itself should be important.
right,
And
that
if that,
matters.
yeah, that matters. And so that is in your control. So if these other things are influencing, for me, those four things, my mental, my physical, my emotional, or my spiritual well-being, I should be able to say no,
Right.
because and just state that. So I had a situation, I was being demanded to do something, a part of our the company, and I was like, look, this is what I'm willing to do, this is what I'm not willing to do. So then it's off of me, like, I am letting you know where my boundary is. This is what I'm willing to do, this is what I'm not willing to do. You feel like this is important, so I'm willing to do this, but I won't do this.
Hmm.
And so that's super important that we also understand, because I knew where it was going to take me emotionally because of what was being requested of me, and I'm like, I'm not going there. From an emotional and a mental and even a physical perspective, that was going to put me down a route that I did not want to go. And so I was like, no, I am not doing that. And so,
Hmm.
and you shouldn't feel any guilt. Like, when you are protecting yourself, there should be no guilt there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or, and if there is, that's okay, but
Right.
you have to handle the guilt um, in a different way, right? Or like not let it change what you're saying,
Right.
but process through the guilt, you know.
So
And
why do you feel you don't deserve
right.
to protect yourself? That's really, for me, the question. Why do you feel like you shouldn't put this boundary to protect your physical and emotional well-being? And
And a
so,
lot of times when you dig in, a lot of times the why, if you're feeling guilty, it's because you care.
right.
It's not a bad thing,
Hmm.
right? So then you can just kind of acknowledge, well, this is a really positive thing. I don't have to turn it into a negative feeling of guilt. I can make it a positive feeling of guilt, right? Like,
Yeah.
because I care about this person. Of course I want this to be this way for them, but unfortunately, my need is this.
Yeah. Some other things that I think are important on what you can control is who you spend your time with. That is also one of the things that also can impact you
Yeah.
in your day and in causing challenges for you. And it's like, okay, do I want to continue to put myself in this situation? I can control how much time I'm actually spending.
Right.
How you treat yourself and also others is also something that's important as well. So are you treating yourself? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you giving yourself self-love? Those are the things that you can control. And then also how you deal with challenges and opportunities. Those are also things that are in your control.
Right. And and challenges and opportunities are the same, right? Every
Yeah.
challenge is an opportunity, and it can be corny, and sometimes I say it and I'm like, it's just like a load of shit. But I also know that it's very, very true,
It
right?
is.
Because every single thing that is presented to you that is challenging is an opportunity for you to learn, or to see the thing in a different way. I look back to our interview with Rochelle Moulton, right? And she
Uh-huh.
said, one of the things she said that was, if you were in a toxic workplace, the good thing about that is that you learn how to deal with toxic, right? So,
Yes.
that becomes a skill. So, even in your worst situations, like being in toxicity,
Mhm.
you're still learning. That challenge is still actually an opportunity.
Yeah. We have one other thing we also wanted to share with people, related to, a lot of times when we're feeling out of control, it really has to do with stress, because that's really what it boils down to. The reason I'm feeling out of control is impacting me through, is making life stressful. And so
Right.
there's also another philosophy on being able to handle stress, and it's called nuts. So NUT and so I'm going to go ahead and share that up. So nuts. So when you are feeling stressed, thinking about, okay, is this an N? Is this the U? Is this the T? Or is this the S? So a lot of times we see this in our own business. So N stands for novelty, which is really something new.
Hmm.
So learning new software or having to learn something new is something that stresses people out. And so when you are thinking about having people learn something new, you also have to think about how can you help them to see the value maybe in it, or how is it that you can reduce the stress for someone. And so
Hmm.
thinking about that and just even acknowledging it, look, I know learning something new can be stressful. Sometimes even just acknowledging it with them
Yeah.
uh, can be helpful.
Yeah, it helps validate the experience. You can
Mhm.
do this with, I mean, it's actually a little hard to do this with the tea, um, as we'll get to it, but with
Yeah.
both, you know, novelty and unpredictability,
Hmm.
just by acknowledging it, like you said, and validating the experience. Like, of course, this is stressful. I had no clue this was coming.
Yeah.
Of course, this is stressful. This is brand new to me. This is a huge change. You know, and you can do the same for other people. So, like in the situation where we do when we're selling something, we can say, you know, this will be a stressful time because it is new to everyone. Um, or you know, like you didn't know this was coming, and now we are here.
Yeah, and I also do think that sometimes the words that we use, so maybe we don't use the word stressed, for example. So I know that sometimes this can be uncomfortable, but it also can be exciting. And thinking about, so sometimes the words we also choose when something is new. So acknowledging people might have some certain feelings, but sometimes also changing it. And the reason I'm saying that is that um, I go into a doctor, and this goes to the unpredictability. And they come in and they say to me, what is your problem? Well, they're automatically putting you in a negative space instead of saying, how can I help you? And so that's also important with these different things, is that we're acknowledging, hey, it's, I know that, these things may have some uncomfortability, to them, but it also can be very exciting, and there's a lot of opportunity here. And so it's getting them to see the positive aspects of things as well. Um,
Yeah.
so the words of how we express things are, I also want to say, is really important too.
Yes. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. The second one was like no way of knowing. So we had like earthquakes. So I know Carmen, for example, they were dealing with earthquakes, fires, tropical storms. Not a lot you can do about that.
Right. Yep. Exactly. We are talking about like extreme heat,
Hmm.
somebody vacuuming. You don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly. And that can cause stress, but we also, the reason we like the nuts is that you can now acknowledge, oh, the reason I'm feeling stressed, the reason I'm feeling out of control is because this is unpredictable or this is something new. So it's really about
Hmm.
awareness. That's why these things are important.
Hmm.
The third one is harder because a lot of people don't realize, and we have a situation that we're having to deal with within our company, and and it really is threat to the ego. And so we were actually doing some upfront discussions and saying, okay, let's imagine how this person is feeling and why it is that they're coming to us stressed. Well, it's probably their boss that is giving the pressure. So it is the threat to the ego. This
Hmm.
person feels that they are being questioned by their boss. So it's easier to throw us under the bus than them to
Right.
deal with how it is that the responsibility that they had a part of the situation. So that can be a very difficult situation, but it also can help you as you're going into situations, acknowledging or knowing that this person has a threat to ego and figuring out, okay, how can we all agree that maybe there was culpability or maybe there were issues amongst all of us, and what is it now? Let's try to get this on a level playing field to really figure out how can we handle this situation.
Yeah. This is when you're feeling, for me, one of my good clues that I might be in the T zone of the nuts is when I'm feeling defensive, right? When you're feeling defensive, then a lot of times that you're feeling like you're being threatened. So it's helpful, to acknowledge that and to know, internally what may be going on.
Yes. Out of my control. I just sneezed.
Yes.
And then the S, so sense of control. So this is what we've been talking about all along, and you'll notice that it's a part of the stress aspect. So S is, you feel that you have little or no control, and so a conflicting event. So maybe I'm supposed to be in two places at once. I feel out of control. Oh my gosh, what do I do? I need to be in both of these situations at the same time. So it's acknowledging that. And then again, going back to, okay, what can I control? And for me, it's also then saying, okay, where do I want to spend my energy? So if I have two conflicting things, I've got to weigh them and figure out what's more important. Or maybe I go to this one this time, go to the other one the next time.
Yes.
So that's super important as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I know we're really close, but the other thing I wanted to toss out is the serenity prayer. It's used a lot in addiction work, AODA work, because in like Alcoholic Anonymous, it's a part of the 12-step process. So many of you may be familiar with it. And it starts with God, but you don't have to use God. You can often just start it with grant. But it is grant me, God grant me the serenity to understand the things I cannot. Grant me the serenity to understand the things I cannot.
You want me to look it up?
Yeah. Grant me.
So,
God grant me the serenity to understand.
Yeah. So, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's about accepting the things you cannot change, courage to know the difference. And I love the courage part of it because that's what that's what it's all about, right? When the difference is not clear to you in the moment, and that's when this is key, right? When you're feeling stressed, when you're in the S of the nuts, when you are feeling a sense of control is there, that's because you literally are in that moment are not understanding the difference between what you can control and what you can't. So when you have the courage, when you step outside of yourself, that's courage in order to truly figure out, where is this? What can I control? What can I not? And the wisdom to know the difference. It's a beautiful, beautiful aspect of that.
I do have to say, for me, the person that helped me the most regarding control was my mother. And so my husband will love this because I always say my mom was a nurse. And so it's like an inside joke, but that I always say it. But a part of what she learned was crisis management. And so in that, when you think about things in a crisis, you are thinking about, okay, what can I control? So if you've ever gone through that type of training in a crisis event, and I did this in college, they first ask you to go, take a look, take a pulse on the individuals that are there. Who can you actually help? which people are basically gone, have passed away. You can't do anything about that. What people can you impact? And so it's then focusing on what you can do. But my mom helped me like in high school as I was feeling out of control. She's like, all right, let's break it down. Let's talk about step one. What is step one? What is it that you can do in this situation? What can you control, basically? And then
Mhm.
you sometimes also, I was in too many things. Okay, well, what is it that you're really passionate about? What is it that you really like? And so it was breaking it down and having that conversation with myself. Okay,
Mm.
Sarah, I can't control all of these other things. What can I control? What do I like? What do I not like? And sort of evaluating these different things. And really, I go back to, where do you want to spend your energy? What is
Right.
most important to you? Is it about pleasing someone else? Or is it about, the things that you need to get where you're at? And
Right.
sometimes
Furthering.
it goes back and forth. And so, no, it's really important to me that I'm helping this person out, or that, this, I feel satisfaction by helping this person out. That might be what's most important to me at that moment. And it's okay
Right.
to go back and forth with those types of things.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm interested to hear from people. So even afterwards, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. But I'm curious if this helped you. Did it help you? Did the circle of control? Did the nuts help you to sort of reevaluate your situation and how it is that you can take control of the situation? Are there other things you guys have done that helped you to evaluate what is in your control and what is out of your control? So be sure to share that as well. And especially to those that are viewing it afterwards, we're interested to hear what you think as well.
Yes. Yeah, please continue to share. I love how much you guys will interact and tell us about um, the things that you are encountering, and how, what we talked about may have helped, or how you kind of took a different spin on it. When we get those stories afterward, they mean so much to us. So really appreciate you guys
Yes.
continuing to interact, even outside of our 1 hour every Friday.
Yeah. And we're having Rhonda. Do you want to talk a little bit about Rhonda for next week?
Yeah, so we have a fantastic woman joining us. Her name is Rhonda Ware. She is a coach. She's had this amazing, really very cool career. Um, she's done everything from playing the violin masterfully to running nonprofit organizations. And she's just an amazing individual, and has so much to offer. And so we're going to talk next week with her. It'll be a really great interview, so don't miss it. I'm sure it'll be inspirational.
Yeah, and then the following week on the 8th, we are planning on talking about discovering opportunities and obstacles. And then on the 15th, we have planned uh, Julie Ross Powers, who's going to be joining us to share a very special story that she has about motherhood and some of the challenges that she faced as well, and sort of where she's at in her life. And I think right now we're still figuring out the 22nd, but I wanted to point out that on the 29th, I haven't told Cate, but we're going to do shooting the shit again. And we have Carrie, who's going to be joining us for that on September 29th
Oh,
as a special,
yay!
special person.
Sweet. I can't wait.
I know. All right. It looks like we have
Well,
some comments. So someone, I'm not sure who this is. Thank you, loves. Another Friday with beautiful inspiration. I think that's Jenna, and advice maybe very helpful. So thank you guys so much. She said great. Someone else said great information. Oh, and I may have lost Cate already. So it's so thank you everyone for joining us. And I want to just thank you for coming out. And I hope you have a great rest of your Friday, that this has fueled your Friday as well as your weekend and on into Monday. And tell Cate hello and hope she has a good vacation. Looks like she has fallen off. And so just in time, at least we're at the end. So thank you everyone for joining us.